Okay, so I'm going to show you a few more examples on how to complete the square. You should have watched the other two videos already in order for this to make sense. Completing the square is just another method to solve quadratic equations. So let's begin with this one. I'm going to have x squared plus 12x. And on the previous video you learned that to complete the square, you get this value divided by 2 and then square it. So therefore, I'm going to add plus 12 over 2 squared. And then I also had the plus 4. And since I do not want to change the value of the equation, I have to take away what I added. So what I added was a 12 over 2 squared, which is 12 over 2 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36, so I have to subtract 36. And then this equals 0. So I'm going to put a little bracket here. So this is x squared plus 12x plus 12 over 2 is 6. 6 times 6, 36. And then 4 minus 36 is negative 32 equals 0. Now we're going to factor this perfect square trinomial. So it's going to be x plus 6 squared minus 32 equals 0. So now we're going to solve this by adding 32 to both sides. So that is x plus 6 squared equals 32. Then we square root both sides. So it is going to be x plus 6 equals positive, negative, a square root of 16 times 2. I hope that you remember how to simplify radicals. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 is a perfect square. That is the reason I'm multiplying it like this. So then that's going to give me x plus 6 equals plus minus the square root of 16 is 4, square root of 2. Then we take away 6 from both sides. So the answer is going to be x equals negative 6 plus minus 4 square root of 2. Remember that the plus and the minus, this represents two different answers. This is the same thing as having negative 6 plus 4 square root of 2. Oops. And negative 6 minus 4 square root of 2. But this is a shortcut. Now let's go over another example. Let's try now x squared minus x minus 5 equals 0. If you want to give it a try, pause the video, try to work on it on your own, and then unpause the video once you are done. Okay, so it is going to be x squared minus x. So I need to complete the square. To complete the square is going to be plus the number that is right in front of the x, in this case negative 1, over 2 squared minus 5. Now this becomes positive 1 over 4 because negative 1 over 2 times negative 1 over 2 is positive 1 over 4. So I'm going to take away 1 over 4 and then equals 0. This whole thing forms a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to factor it, and it's going to be x minus 1/2 squared minus 5 minus 1/4 equals 0. Okay, so to add fractions, remember that you have to have a common denominator. The common denominator here is going to be 4. Let me erase this. Okay, so the common denominator is going to be 4. So we will have x minus 1/2 squared minus, if I want to convert this 5 into 4s, I'm going to multiply it by 4/4. So this becomes 20/4 minus 1/4. And this equals 0. So then we'll have x minus 1/2 squared. When you're adding fractions, remember you only add the numerator. So negative 20 minus 1 is going to be negative 21/4 equals 0. Then we add 21/4 to both sides. So that's going to be x minus 1/2 squared equals 21/4. We square root after this. So that's going to be x minus 1/2 equals positive, negative, square root of 21 over the square root of 4 is 2, so I'm just going to write 2. And then we're going to add 1/2 to both sides. So then the answer will be x equals 1/2 positive, negative, square root of 21/2. And one last example. Okay, let's go ahead and work on the last example. 3x squared plus 12x plus 3. When you are completing the square, this coefficient has to be 1. If it is anything different, then you have to factor it out. So I'm going to factor the 3 out, and I will have x squared plus 4x and then plus 3. I only want to factor it out from the first two terms because that is where I'm going to complete the square. Okay, so now let's go ahead and complete the square. It's going to be 3x squared plus 4x plus something that I'm going to add here plus 3 minus whatever I add here times the 3 equals 0. So to complete the square, we're going to get this value, we divide it by 2, and then we square it. So 4/2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Now, we have a 3 in front of this, so this 3 is affecting every single term inside of the parentheses. That means that this one is not just a 4. This is a 4 times 3. So it is a 12. So to keep the balance on the equation, I'm going to take away 12. Again, this is because we have a 3 in front of it. Now everything else is going to be the same. So we'll have 3. We're going to factor the perfect square trinomial. It's going to be x plus 2 squared. 3 minus 12 is negative 9 equals 0. So then we will have 3 times x plus 2 squared equals 9. We're going to divide both sides by 3. So this one cancels because 3/3 is 1. So we'll have x plus 2 squared equals 9/3, which is 3. Then we're going to square root both sides. So that's going to give us x plus 2 equals plus minus square root of 3. and then we take away 2. So the answer will be x equals negative 2 plus minus a square root of 3. And that's it. That's it for today. See you next class.